My name's Craig Eason. I'm a journalist. I'm an editor with an organisation called Lloyd's List. It's one of the oldest shipping newspapers in the world. We're about 300 years old nearly, and in that time we've seen a lot of changes within the shipping industry. So we've got here some of the examples of what the latest cusp of what's happening in the industry, some of the real innovations that are happening. Harri works with Royal Caribbean. It's an industry that the cruise industry itself is changing quite dramatically. I've seen that myself. Can we start by just talking a little bit about what those changes are, how we see the cruise industry changing? Because these are big white ships that we can see up there. I mean, what are they?
The cruise ship industry is about 50 years old, and it has matured quite a lot during this time frame. Today, we are catering to about 23 million guests on an annual basis. The industry started in Caribbean, has expanded to Europe, and today all the expansion is taking place in Far East. China is very much in our focus, and also New Zealand and Australia. Cruise ships are exceptionally complex ships. They are very custom built, and they are built in very small series. They are very high tech today, and technology plays an exceptionally important role. The industry is built on tremendous guest satisfaction, innovation, really continuous improvement constantly in the service. We are sailing in very pristine environments. We are doing worldwide itineraries, sailing into altogether about 500 ports and so on. We feel at Royal Caribbean that we are on the forefront of developing the new ships, and we feel that really the design, the technology, really constantly pressing the envelope, what we can do on the ships, is very key for us.
These are ships that are... The first cruise ship was effectively the old liner vessels, and then you developed the first cruise ship some 20, 30, however long years ago. The size that we have today compared to that initial first ever cruise vessel, how could we compare that? I mean, in terms of this stage, in terms of this hall, what's the first cruise ship compared to some of these vessels that you're delivering now?
The cruising started actually with Atlantic liners, which were for transportation, sailing over the ocean, and so on. The first dedicated cruise ship, which was really built for warm weather cruising, was Song of Norway, and she was delivered 1970 and built here in Helsinki. And she had 800 passengers, and she had a tonnage, a gross register tonnage of 16,000 tons. Today, the largest ships take 6,000 passengers or 6,600 passengers, and the ship is about 360 meters long, so 1,200 feet long, and it is a combination of very many neighborhoods. These are really one of the biggest and the most complex engineering objects.
So when we talk about a cruise vessel, we're talking about a big, modern hotel on an extremely sophisticated ship that needs a lot of monitoring, a lot of care.
Yeah. It's not only a hotel. The ship is moving, so we have the transportation. The ship is producing its own power. We are, of course, producing all our own water. We are cleaning all the water. We have the large resort so from culinary service to entertainment service to communications and everything else. On a modern cruise ship, so the entire volume of our guests, for example, is 6,000, and we have more than 2,000 people who are serving on them. So it's a very complex and a very large enterprise, a ship. It's a small community and taking care of all the aspects of operation by themselves.
So it's a small city going across the oceans, and this is where you need the assistance of some innovative thinkers to come on board and help you. And right. You describe yourself as sort of a friend of innovation in a way. And this is where I can talk to Henrik now, because from Eniram's point of view, you add a certain amount of value to a company like RCCL. Can we start by talking a little bit then, just very briefly, about what Eniram is? How did you get that door open?
Sure. So as Harri just mentioned, a cruise ship is probably the most advanced factory you have in the world, especially because it's moving all the time. So when we founded a company in 2005, it was not really the easiest optimization target we took the challenge to optimize. We've been very successful though. We optimized today roughly 130 cruise ships. That's 2/3 of the big fleet of the whole global fleet in the world.
So when we're talking about optimization, we're talking about finding the right data and using it in the most sophisticated way to give something back to RCCL so that they can actually make that decision.
The key thing we do today is we are a data company. We collect a lot of data. So to date, in 6 years, we collected over 1 trillion signals from cruise ships alone. And based on that massive amount of data, we build mathematical relationships. We build a digital model to be able to really understand the different performance factors and how they affect each other, the relationships between all these elements. And by doing that, we can then go back on board the vessel and put something that's very simple. It's a display, a traffic light, green, yellow, red, to help this crew who has these massively complex operations there to get a bit of less focus on something just by following it and keeping it green.
So you're offering that very easy to diagnose or a very easy to understand image of where the optimization could be found. And that must have been one of the key things, Harri, when you're looking at what RCCL wanted from Eniram. And from the pair of you, from the perspective of the relationship between RCCL and Eniram over the 10 years that you've had this business relationship, what are the key things that you've found that you've benefited from? What's the real sort of benefit of this symbiotic relationship you've got?
I think it's the partnership, the way we work together, and the way by working very closely together, partnering very closely together, we create new competence, new knowledge, new ways of thinking, and we create value, and that value can be shared between our company and can be shared with Eniram. That's, I think, a good foundation for a true partnership, and that's what is needed. When you think outside the box, you need to take a risk. You need the best minds in the world. You need the people who really think alike and in one or another way disturb the thoughts and who think in a different way but still share the same values. I personally find that as a very key. We, of course, have a shipbuilding tradition and ship operating tradition as a basis. When you look on our cruise ships, they are very different. You can just see from the surface, you can see from the elements, you can see from the volume of technology what we are using, that we are very far beyond what is a traditional cruising. And this partnership and this kind of relationship are helping us to think differently.
From a corporation point of view, would you describe yourself as quite different from a lot of corporations? Because for a startup like Henrik, or any startup that we see here at Slush, to get that door open, there must be somebody the other side of that door ready to listen. So do you describe yourself as different?
I think there needs to be someone who is listening. There needs to be someone who is interested in this. There needs to be a corporate culture which is actually making it possible and make it a value. And that the vision that by working together with enterprises like Eniram, working together with companies who think outside the box, you can actually develop your product, you can offer for your customers new vacation experiences in a more powerful way than what you would be working in a traditional manner.
And Henrik, for your point of view from Eniram, getting this relationship started with RCCL 10 years ago, obviously has been a very positive move for you that's helped you strengthen your business. But what's for you are the key things about the relationship that you've been able to draw out so far?
Initially, I guess the key thing for us was to get in there. And to do that, we had to have two things. We had to have a business case and trust. And the business case for us comes then from the quantifiable, at least the kind of savings we can produce with the operational optimization. And to be honest, the second key element is then, of course, trust. So we have to have, a big corporation has to trust us that we can really do what we set out to do.
So when you first met, were you both either side of the couch, but now you're quite happy to sit down the one end of the couch? That helped? Is that it?
And the trust wasn't always there, and we haven't always been successful. So I remember in 2009, when we started the initial trial with Royal, we set together a target for 2% of savings. And I'll never forget the day we got the results. We got 0.6%.
Okay, so not what you're expecting.
Not really what we were expecting. I remember going to the Miami headquarters to meet with Royal and the team there and presenting the results there and thinking, now we failed this. And basically, the other part, the Royal people on the other side of the table were all smiling. And well, basically, I was smiling as well when I left the room because I walked there out with a deal for 6 vessels, which eventually led to the fleet-wide deal. Because they deliberately, they've been very clever on us, they picked a vessel where they had been fine-tuning all the operations for years and years. And they were not expecting a company coming out of the blue to be able to improve at all on that. And just the fact that we could improve even 0.6% meant that, okay, there really is then a business case to improve the whole fleet of vessels. And basically, it was also then built on the most important thing, which was the trust. Those guys come in, they admit what they are doing. We can really trust to work as a partner. And since then, it's been a really great partnership.
So they set you a bit of a test, really.
Sure, I think they're always testing us a bit.
And you can understand that we come from shipping tradition. And there is a lot of people who said, this is the way we have been doing the things the last 30 years or 40 years. And then we have a group of very talented young mathematicians and engineers and all that, who doesn't really know much about shipping. And then they say, everything what you have been doing the last 30 years can be questioned. So that's testing the relationship until you really build a bond. You build a trust, you build the understanding, and you really get the people to work together and partner together in the way that it adds value.
I mean, there used to be a time when a ship went over the horizon and that was it. You waved it goodbye, and then a few weeks later, you said hello to it again. Did you have a good voyage? Now it's a case of being able to monitor those ships continually and get increased amounts of data from those ships and being able to analyze it. So where do we see the next steps? Where are we going to go with this? Particularly with what you focus on in terms of the analytical data. What's the next moves that we can see within, particularly the partnership between the pair of you?
Sure. So for us really going forward and having a partner like Royal is really essential because we know that if we can do this with them, we can do it with anybody because they're already on the top of the things before Eniram. So it gives a lot of energy to go forward and really try to challenge and basically ensure that the ship is operated as well as it is designed. So what we are now aiming to doing together is to really focus not only on the onboard side of things, not only having the traffic lights on board the vessel, but making sure we have the whole Royal as a company committed to the process. So it's from our perspective, from a startup with 75 people, it's a massive change. Because we go from having focused on optimizing 40 vessels, we go into optimizing 60,000 people. So we have to change. We have to bring in completely different kind of attitude.
So you still need that flexibility. You still need that sort of ability to adapt to what the clients are going to need anyway, what the ship owners, what Harri's demands are going to be.
Sure. We are a technology company, so it's all about the tools. But
And was it a bit like smartphones? Nobody knew they wanted a smartphone until they got the smartphone. So you didn't know you needed Eniram until you met Eniram.
Yeah. I think that is that. I think when you innovate, when you look on the things, so usually the customer doesn't know that what he really wants. I think if you think on the famous word what was said, that I think that Ford said that if he would have asked what the customer would like to, so they would have said, I would like to have a faster horse. And that's, I think, a very... So really anticipating what the customers really want and what they can get out of that, I think is a key. Another element when going really forward, I think, in this is that being really to do all this in real time so that there is not a delay. The only way you can really operate optimally the vessels so is that the instructions for the operators are immediate. That they immediately see that if they are doing an action, what is happening. For example, on the fuel side, which is the strength of Eniram, and where we are working, we are burning 1.2 million tons of fuel, which is quite a lot of money. I think it's about it's several hundred millions of dollars what we are burning every year, and this is a very important element for us to work and optimize, both from the environmental point of view, but of course also from the economical point of view. Although the fuel price is coming down, this is our number one focus. And we have very systematic programs in place in order to work on this. And this is really the key where Eniram has been helping us.
So really it's a case of just being able to see what their needs are going to be. When it comes to optimization, and here we mean fuel optimizations, lowering the fuel bill, lowering the CO2 emissions so that ships can be a lot more efficient. And for the cruise industry, that's a key factor now and in the future. But in terms of how Eniram will develop, what sort of new functions are you going to be adding in the future to what RCCL can achieve?
Yeah, Harri already quite nicely alluded to it. You know, the key is what we see is to have this real-time management of the whole fleet. So it basically means that having also on the shore side people, both from the Eniram side, working together side by side with the Royal people, supporting the vessel. It is not about taking the control from the captains. The captains are still the kings. They have to make sure that safety is the priority or the core, as Harri says, in every situation. But after that they have the sufficient support that whenever they, if for one reason or other they are out of the forecast, so they are out of the plan of what they should be spending in those kind of conditions, there is people on the shores are helping them. And by sitting there in real time, automatic notifications to the management. So Harri will know immediately when one vessel out of his 44 vessels is out of the plan. And so will the team at Eniram and Royal. And we'll be working our hardest to correct it and get the vessel back to plan. That's going to drive a change that's much bigger than just doing optimization on board the vessels.
Good. Harri, I'm going to leave the last word with you. As a startup, what's the thing that they need to think about when they're coming to a large corporation? What is it that will help open that door?
Being able to come with solutions, powerfully put them forward, being able to really build a trust very quickly, explain where their competence really is, and demonstrate that through actions in the beginning. And being willing to understand that the learning curve in this kind of relationship is quite long. And when you come from different backgrounds, so that it takes a little while in order to build that learning curve and that relationship.
Good. Gentlemen, thank you very much. I'm going to hand back to our hosts now, I think at the bottom of the steps ready to come up. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.